Well, welcome everybody. Good to see you. I know, we were greeting people as they came in today, saw a lot of new faces. Just wonderful to have you today. Want to welcome those that are joining us online today as well, wherever you're at. And so we are actually coming to the close of a series. Over the last 4 weeks, we've been studying through Psalm 23, which is a pretty common passage of Scripture that many people know. And we've been going through it. We've talked about how the 23rd Psalm is inspired trust to follow the Good Shepherd, which is ultimately Jesus Christ. And we've walked through this entire passage. Today we're going to be studying the last verse of Psalm 23. And we've done this for quite a few weeks now. I've asked you guys to read Psalm 23 along with me. So I'm going to ask you to do that again. In Psalm 23, we're reading from the New King James Version. It'll be up on the screen, so we're all reading the same thing. But we can read that together. So I'd ask that you would join me. It reads this way. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This morning, guys, we're going to be focusing in on the closing verse of Psalm 23, verse 6. And it starts out by saying this: surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. It talks about the goodness and the mercy of God. How that is part of God's character, that he ultimately is a good God. And I know that often people have this different thought process of what God is, that maybe he's some sort of cosmic judge up there waiting for us to do something wrong so that he can punish us. But David here is saying that God's character is very different, that the goodness of God. And he says that goodness and mercy, that God is also merciful to us. Now this word mercy it's an interesting word. In the Hebrew language, it's hard to translate this one word, it's the word hesed, into a one English word, because it's more of like a phrase. And so this hesed is a broad term that we translate as mercy, but what it actually means is it's a connection through relationship. It's the kind and loyal care and well-being for the well-being of another. So when we think about this is a perfect place for David to use this Hebrew word, because he was talking about a shepherd taking care of sheep, and it was this incredible loyalty that the shepherd had towards the sheep, this loyalty and this care that he had, and the well-being of those sheep. So through this relationship of the shepherd flows this goodness and this mercy into the life of the sheep. Now, some of us have to realize that David was the one that was writing the 23rd Psalm. And the 23rd Psalm here, we have to understand that not everything went perfect for David. I know that you guys, when we think about David's life, it's not exactly a picture of purity or a picture of complete goodness and mercy following him all the days of his life. In fact, David, as he was writing this psalm, we got to think about his life. Remember who David was? David was actually going to be anointed as king, but then we see that even his family, they didn't even believe in him. So ultimately, he was out in the field. He was a shepherd that ultimately they were calling in because he wasn't one of the top draft picks to be king. So we see that David is this guy who's overlooked by his family. Ultimately, David, later on, we see that he was given this job to play a harp for King Saul, and then King Saul got so jealous he tried to kill David multiple times. And then he was so jealous that he chased David around, and David spent years out in the desert running around like a wild animal being hunted down by the king. And then we see that David, When he finally became king, he didn't always make the greatest choices, did he? Remember the time that he stole another man's wife, impregnated her, and then had the guy knocked off? And then after that, the baby ends up having the infant, and the infant dies. And we think about all of this situation, we go, man, how can the writer of Psalm 23, who's gone through all of these things in his life, actually say, goodness and mercy are following me around, right? Think about David. This was another thing. The Bible said that he was a man after God's own heart. And he said at the end of his life, he said, God, I want to take all of these riches, all of the things that I've acquired, and I want to build you a temple to honor your great name. And God said, you know what? You can't do that because you were a man who, basically your hands are covered in blood. You've killed so many people over the course of your life that I'm not going to have you do that for me. So David literally gets rejected, and he says, but your son can build the temple for me. And so David here, we think about, if David wanted to, he could probably have a lot of complaints in his life. He probably could have said, surely goodness and mercy are not following me all the days of my life, right? Like if anyone could have wrote that, that could have been David. But he didn't. David here we see could have had a lot of things that he could say about God differently than he did. Because David's life was full of turmoil. It was full of sin. It was full of brokenness. See, the question this morning is, how do you view God's goodness and mercy when your life is a wreck? How do you view God's goodness and mercy when your life is a wreck? David said this about God's goodness and mercy, even though his life was at oftentimes a wreck. He said, surely goodness and mercy will follow me. It will follow me. But this word, follow me, is the Hebrew word radaf. It's radaf. And it doesn't just mean like, come follow me. It's a little bit different. In fact, this Hebrew word follow me it's such an important word to today when what we're talking about. I have to give you like an illustration. And the only way for you to really know what radaf means is you have to know this man by the name of Bo Jackson. Anyone know who Bo Jackson was? Yeah, lots of hands. Bo Jackson. For those of you that don't know who Bo Jackson was, I'll explain him to you. Bo Jackson was probably one of the greatest athletes that we have seen maybe in our lifetimes. And Bo Jackson was actually simultaneously, he was an NFL running back and a Major League Baseball player at the same time. And he wasn't just like average. Like Bo was actually all-stars in both major sports at the exact same time. So when it comes to athleticism, this guy was off the charts. In fact, this is what they used to say about Bo Jackson. They said that Bo Jackson, there are stars and there are all-stars and then there's Bo Jackson. That's what they said. And then another person said, there is fast and there is faster and then there's Bo Jackson, that's right. That's what they said about this guy. Like he was so far off the charts to everybody else. And you know what, guys? This morning, there was a picture in my mind. I thought, how can I explain this Hebrew word radaf in a really good way? And I think that Bo Jackson is going to help us today. Bo Jackson, I'm going to show you a video clip of Bo Jackson, and he's the running back that gets the ball on this play, okay? And Bo is in the gray and black uniform. I believe he's number 34, and he played for the Raiders. And he's going to get the ball tossed to him, and he's supposed to go left, but the play breaks up, and it gets all blocked off that way. So he just decides to make it up as he goes along. And remember, there's fast, and then there's faster, and then there's Bo Jackson. All right, so we got the video coming up here, guys. Wait a minute, there is one other person that you need to know about before we hit play on this. There is a defender on this, and He is wearing a white uniform and an orange helmet, and during this video, they are going to circle him in a white circle so you know who he is, okay? And so his name, nobody remembers his name. I'll just tell you, it is Rod Jones. I didn't even remember. I had to look at my notes. But basically, Rod Jones, number 25, in the orange helmet and the white uniform, he is going to explain to us the definition of radaf. Let's play that video, guys. There he is. Oh, so close, Bo. Bo is smiling because that's never happened to him before. We're going to watch it from another, they're going to replay it here from another angle. Number 25, Rod Jones here, radafs Bo Jackson. That's what this word means, radafs Bo Jackson. So the Hebrew word here, follow, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. Oftentimes we think of that, we think, oh, follow us like a lost puppy. Listen, this word actually means to chase you down like a ravenous dog. That's what the definition of this is in Hebrew. So we see Rod Jones here, number 25, is chasing him down. The Bible says, surely goodness and mercy will not just simply follow you, but it will actually pursue you. And the Hebrew word, predominantly when this word is used, radaf, it is in the hostile sense when it's used. It means that in Vine's Dictionary of the Old Testament, it says this: at times, radaf signifies pursuing without having a specific location or direction in mind, as in hunting for someone. Hunting for someone. Guys, often in life, we're a lot like Bo Jackson. We get going one direction that we're supposed to be going. God wants us to go this direction. We go, I don't so much like that idea. I think I'm going to go my other way here. So we go off on it by ourselves. And we get off going, and we get running away from God, running away, going wherever we want. And we're just going there. You know, there's fast and there's faster. And you're Bo Jackson. You know, you're running in whatever direction that you want, going your own way, doing your own thing. And you know what, guys? This is what this word means. David said, surely goodness and mercy will radaf me. Basically, when you're running away from God as fast as you possibly can, then surely goodness and mercy are chasing you down. They are hunting you like a ravenous dog. It is radafing you. It is a relentless pursuit. Basically, David is trying to say that we can do our best to run from God, but we can try and get away. We can go our own way, but surely goodness and mercy will follow you. It will track you down, and it will catch you every time, even if it's at the 1 yard line. Radaf. But Pastor Sheldon, I'm going through a valley season in my life. I don't see the goodness of God. All I see, like we talked about last week, are the enemies that are sitting around my table. All I see is the valley of the shadow of death. All I hear is the footsteps of something behind me, much like my past that's trying to haunt me. But one day, you can run from God for so long, but one day, you're going to hear the footsteps coming. And you're going to feel the breath of 25 breathing down your back. And you think, I'm in the clear, but you can hear it and you can sense it. And all of a sudden, God's goodness and mercy are going to overtake you. They're going to overtake you. They're going to pursue you relentlessly until you're captured. All the time we're running, and God's love and mercy ran us down. Guys, as I was preparing the message today, I just felt like God spoke to my heart that there are people in this room, you need to stop running. You need to stop running today. You need to stop striving. You need to stop trying to catch something else and allow the goodness and mercy of God to catch you. To catch you. You see, once you understand the love of the shepherd, you can look back and see all of the times that goodness and mercy were chasing you. It says that goodness and mercy are chasing me, David wrote, not just once, not just one time, but chasing me all of the days of my life, every single day. That when we look back at the hardest seasons of our life and we look at the heartache and the pain and the sadness and the difficulty, we look at it knowing that the shepherd was right there with us. And despite all of our wrong choices and all of the valleys we find ourselves in, still goodness and mercy weren't far behind. You see, guys, you see faith by looking forward, but you see faithfulness by looking back. You see faith by looking forward, but you see the faithfulness of God by looking back. You see, David could say, even in the hardest times of my life, the goodness and the mercy of God followed me every single day. You see, guys, even when you don't pursue goodness and mercy, it pursues you. Isn't that beautiful? Even when you don't pursue goodness and mercy, it pursues you. It's chasing you down. But David didn't just say, goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. In fact, he wrote this extra word at the beginning of the sentence. He said, surely goodness and mercy will follow me. It's an emphasis of an expression of truth. He's saying this statement is absolutely true. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And David, he goes on and writes this often throughout the Psalms. He wrote a lot of the Psalms. And when he wrote these, he wrote often about the sureness of the goodness of God, or the sureness of God's love that is towards us. In Psalm 69, verse 16, which David wrote, he said, answer my prayers, O Lord, for your unfailing love is wonderful. Take care of me, for your mercy is so plentiful. David goes on to write in Psalm 103, verse 8, the Lord is compassionate and merciful, slow to get angry, and filled with unfailing love. He continues on in Psalm 27, verse 13. He says, yet I am confident I will see the Lord's goodness while I am here in the land of the living. David says, surely, 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 God's goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The 23rd Psalm is written from the standpoint of a sheep and a shepherd, Jesus being the shepherd. And in order to dwell in the house of the Lord forever, we have to be willing to be a sheep in the flock of Jesus Christ. In order to dwell in the house of the Lord forever, we have to be one of Jesus' sheep. Now, Pastor Keller wrote a book, I referenced it almost every week, that we talked about a shepherd's look at Psalm 23. And he wrote this about this last section, this last sentence in Psalm 23. He said, the old world is a pretty wretched ranch, and Satan is a heartless owner. He cares not a whit for men's souls or welfare. Under his tyranny, there are hundreds of hungry, discontented hearts who long to enter into the household of God, who ache for his care and his concern. Yet there is only one way into the fold. The way is through the owner, Christ himself, the good shepherd. He boldly declared, I am the door. By me, if any man enter it, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. In John chapter 10, verse 9. You see, there's a lot of man-made ways that people think that you become a Christian. A lot of people will tell you got to go to a certain church, you got to do certain things, fulfill these religious obligations. They might make you do other things, like you have to be whatever, go through certain classes, you've got to do certain things like be baptized and so on and so forth. And basically Jesus was saying, listen, the only way to get into my sheepfold is you have to come through me. That's what Jesus said. I'm the gate. It's not a religious institution or a church that you walk in somewhere. It's literally by having a relationship with Jesus Christ personally. And Jesus says, I'm the gate that allows you into this sheepfold or this flock of sheep. And you know what? It's amazing that the Bible references this incredible verse about we being like sheep. In Isaiah 53, verse 6, it says, all of us, like sheep, have strayed away. We have left God's paths to follow our own. Yet the Lord has laid on him the sins of us all, him being Jesus. God, in his goodness and mercy, has provided a way for us to come in, to be a Christian, to be a part of his flock. And it's pretty simple. In fact, guys, I'll just take this and use this as an illustration this morning, that the Bible says that God has laid on him, Jesus, the sins of us all, or the iniquities. Another translation says that. But it's like we have our life that's full of sin here. And the Bible says that God takes our sin and lays it on Jesus Christ, and then we are set free from the penalty of our sin. The Bible says that all of us have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But it also says that the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Through Jesus, the gate, right? Through. So it says that he takes our iniquities, our sin, and he places them on Jesus Christ. All we have to do, and I know that you're going to feel like I'm oversimplifying this, but all we need to do is we need to admit our sin, the things that we've done wrong, the guilt, the shame, all of those things. We just admit those things to God. And we tell Jesus, I believe that you came to die on the cross for me. And God, I want to be one of your sheep. I want to be a Christian. I want to serve you with my life. It's that simple. So this morning, guys, before we go any further, I just want to ask if maybe there are people in this room today that you would say, you know what? I've been living my own life. I've been going astray. I've been doing my own thing. I've never really surrendered my life to Jesus Christ, but I'd like to do that. I'd like to pray for you today. I'm going to ask everybody to just bow your heads for a minute and close your eyes, and we're just going to give everybody an opportunity right now so that somebody isn't feeling embarrassed or anything like that. Well, maybe you're in the room here today and you would say, you know what, Pastor Sheldon, that's me. I've gone astray. I've done my own thing. I've gone my own way, and I've never really surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. But I want to be a part of the flock. I want to be someone who serves Jesus. I want to be one of his sheep. If that's you, I just want you to quickly just look up at me and raise your hand maybe so I can see you. If that's you, just raise your hand. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yeah, a couple people, a few more. Yes, thank you. Once you raise your hand, you can put it down again. Thanks, bud. Anybody else? Thank you. Yep, thank you. Man, thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? We'll just wait a second, and we're just going to pray together as a church. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. I see that hand. Okay. So we'll just keep our heads bowed and our eyes closed. It's going to be real simple. I'm going to ask you guys as a church, if you would just repeat after me, and we're going to help those that raised their hand. There were quite a few that responded today to that. So we're going to pray together, so just repeat after me. Dear Jesus, today I ask that you would come and cleanse me of my sin. I admit I've done wrong. I've gone my own way. But I believe that you died on the cross for me personally, so I could have a relationship with you. You are the gate to heaven, and I walk through that gate by faith today. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, there are some incredible benefits, not that someone would pray that prayer just for the benefits, but when we come into Jesus' sheepfold, when we become one of his sheep, there are some incredible benefits that we don't have to worry so much about where we're going and what we're doing, but we allow the shepherd to lead us. And some of the great blessings are that our life begins to be we sense a rich reward when we're in cooperation with God. Now, I don't mean that you're going to be rich, and I don't mean that everything's going to go perfect for your life, because you can ask around the people nearby. If life is perfect, they're going to tell you no. But you know what? We know that we can walk through even the most difficult times because our shepherd is with us. That he walks with us, he protects us, he guides us, and it's our life sense, we sense that it is worthwhile, that it's satisfying to serve Jesus Christ. Our life is both secure and adventurous at the same time when we serve the shepherd. The shepherd guides us and directs our lives, even in the smallest details. But probably one of the greatest things about being a sheep with a shepherd like Jesus is that goodness and mercy pursues us, that the shepherd is watching and caring for us each and every day, that it says that eventually there will come a time when we will be with our shepherd forever, for eternity, that we'll dwell in the presence of the shepherd forever. That, you see, death on this side of life, guys, death on this side of life looks like the end to all of us. We all think, well, that's the finish line, that's the end. But in reality, if we look at it from the other direction, that literally death is just the beginning. That David was saying, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That there will come a time where one day we will look back and we will go, we are just at the beginning of eternity. And guys, there's an old hymn of the church that probably all of you have heard or even sung, probably, or most of you. It's Amazing Grace. A lot of us know that. But there is a last verse that not everyone has heard before. The last verse says this. It says, when we have been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we have no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. It's basically saying that in eternity, time is different, that there is no concept of time, that we can be there for 10,000 years singing and praising God and being with one another and fellowshipping with Jesus, our shepherd, and with one another. And it says that even after 10,000 years, it's like it's the first day. That it's just this incredible sense of closeness of Jesus. You see, eternity on this side looks like the end, but in reality, it's actually just the beginning. Why don't we have our worship team prepare at this time? And guys, I just want to share with you real quick before we tie up this morning. A Bible teacher, Roger Ellsworth, put it this way when he talked about the living in God's presence for eternity. He says, a glorious day is coming when all God's people will be gathered around God's table in his everlasting house, and there will be no enemy will be present to offer a single snarl. So the greatest expression of the goodness and mercy of God awaits us, even in heaven. The people of God will then be with the Lord who cared for them every step of the way, and they will never again be separated from him. This morning, guys, we're finishing up our series on Psalm 23. It says, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Guys, this morning, this is how I want us to tie up our series today. We're getting to the end of this Psalm 23, and I'm going to encourage you guys, we're going to sing one last song this morning. Maybe you're new to WCAG, you're not familiar with this song, but it talks about the goodness of God running after us, and it's a powerful song. And this morning, we're going to open our altar areas, which means we're going to allow people, if they want, to move from their seats, and they can come up and worship God. And this morning, a lot of times we'll have people come and pray or do different things at the altar area here. But this morning, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this whole room into just a place of worship to God. And can I ask you to do something? If you have, maybe you have this imaginary line in your mind of, okay, that's as far as I go in worship. Like some of you, I know I don't look, but Grayson tells me. But some of you don't even sing. So that's your line this morning, okay? Like you're like, okay, that's it. So I would encourage you, everyone in the room, we're going to take one tiny step forward in worship, further than we've ever gone, okay? So if you don't sing, you're going to step across that line and you're going to make a joyful noise. It doesn't matter what it sounds like, okay? We're going to sing. And there's others of you that you sing, but you're like this, like the frozen Tin Man or something, okay? Maybe you're going to sing, and inside of your heart, you're going to begin to really process the words. You're not just going to sing because the words are up there, but they're going to filter not just from your brain out here, but you're going to filter them through your heart, and you're going to mean the words that you're singing. And there might be other people that you know the song, but often you don't really enter into praise and worship. I'd encourage you to close your eyes maybe and worship God in the moments when you know the words, where you can just allow that to filter through your heart and out. And there might even be some of you that are going to get kind of crazy this morning. You know, you're going to take your hand out of your pocket, and there are crazy people in here that raise their hands like this and worship Jesus, okay? And that we encourage that, whatever you want to do, all right? But you might just go, oh. And you might just say, God, you know what, guys? This isn't basically what this is a sign of surrender to Jesus and admiration and love to him. And I'd encourage you, you know what? I encourage everybody, wherever your line is today in worship, we're going to end this series just worshiping God with all of our heart. And I encourage you, just edge up to that line of worship where you've been and get just a little bit uncomfortable this morning. Just allow God. Maybe you want to slip out of your seat during worship and come and worship God here in the altar area. You can do that this morning. And if you want to stay right where you're at, that's fine too. But I just encourage you, everybody, let's toe up to the line of worship today, and let's take one step further. And so this morning, guys, I asked the worship team. I just felt like at the close of this series that I needed to lead our congregation in worship today. And so I encourage you to stand right now, and we're gonna worship God together. I'm gonna shut off my other microphone here. Guys, let's just press in with Jesus this morning. Maybe just where you're at right now, just close your eyes and push in with him. God, we worship you today. We magnify you, Lord. Worthy are you, Lord Jesus. I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I'm will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness that again. All my life you have been faithful. Lift your voices, guys, last time. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. God, we're so thankful for your goodness. That God, it passionately pursues us. Your goodness and mercy chase us down, God. And we're so thankful for that today, Lord. Yes. God, as we walk from this place, that we would be encouraged, Lord, knowing that we don't walk out of here alone, but the Good Shepherd is walking with us. He is guiding us. He is directing us. And even the times when we find ourselves off path, that right behind us, surely goodness and mercy will pursue us all the days of our life, and we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Lord bless you guys.